So I think we can get started. I think we have quorum.
Perfect. Sue, we're having a hard. Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Yeah, you'd think after 5 years of online meetings, I'd remember to unmute myself. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So good to see everybody. Sorry I missed the last meeting. I was out of town. So I think the first thing we'll do is kind of review. Sabrina, I guess you took notes for the last meeting. So that was great. Sorry, I'm just getting a little looking at the notes here and figuring out where we need to go.
No worries. I actually, if you don't mind, I ask everyone just briefly look over them just to make sure I didn't miss anything or that I got everything from last meeting. I would appreciate
Why don't we just take a few minutes to review the notes and then we'll go on.
I'm sorry, I don't know where the notes are. Were they emailed?
Yes, they were just sent this morning. I'll forward them to you.
Oh, okay. From
Okay.
Taisha? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, yes.
So I have to say, this is not looking good. I've already lost connection twice in the first 5 minutes. So I don't know if anything was said while I was rejoining. I have a feeling Comcast must be doing work in the neighborhood or something.
That's always great.
Yes, exactly. All right, so I'm feeling a little not up to speed here. I think some data was some data. Do I recall seeing some data that was sent to us like in the last week or two? Did you all request some data? Well, I'm looking at the notes here, and
I did see that we got a copy of the VAM.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Sabrina.
I saw something about VAM in my the VAM request.
Okay.
So I believe that was sent out. We sent out VAM information as
Yeah,
well as information on how to calculate, like the directions. Was that also sent out, Taisha? Yeah. VAM, VAM.
Okay. I have a question. Does I know with Zoom, I have the ability to turn on like AI note taking. Do you know if Google Meets has that same? Does anybody know? Oh, meeting tools. Let's see. Um, I found they're really great for when I'm taking notes. I still like to take the notes, but it's nice to then look at the AI tools. I do not see that in Google
So,
Meets. Maybe
so
it's in
Miss Davis Killian. So the school district does not allow it. So when you turn it on, we turn it off. When you turn it on, we turn it off. When you turn it on, we turn it off.
I should have known.
So you'll turn it on and you'll be like, what happened? And then we've turned it off.
It's like when you have that unruly person on a big meeting, you keep muting them and they keep unmuting themselves. All right. Um, so do we want to look at the VAM data that was sent out as a start? Again, I kind of apologize. I've just been super busy and I really should have gotten all back up to speed on what I missed and been more
So
prepared,
no,
but I
we
am
don't want to
not.
look at VAM.
Okay.
So not at this point. So if, let me try to reframe. So first, I was rapidly
Thank you.
trying to look at those notes compared to the notes that I wrote down. And from what I can tell, it looks like Sabrina captured everything, at least everything that I captured. How about that, right?
Thank
So
you.
if we missed it together, right? Um, so, but I think I asked about the VAM score calculation because that has impact in some other things. I don't think we need to go down that rabbit hole now. I don't think that we've even figured out our first rabbit hole, right? And so I think that what we were trying to ascertain, and I think we probably need to say this at the beginning of every meeting because at least my mind will go elsewhere, is whether, okay, I'm gonna just spit it out my way, whether the best teachers are where they are most needed. And in my definition, that's with the most challenged students and or the most challenged schools. I think we have to figure that out. And so I think that all this time we've been trying to determine, how do we determine what a good teacher or the best teacher looks like, right? And so as I recall, and I'm with you, Sue, I haven't put my brain back in this space honestly since the last meeting. So I'm trying to refresh, but I think that so last time we looked at the data that had been sent to us around the end of the last school year, and it was school level data, right? And we asked if that data could be anonymously presented by teacher, right? And then, and the answer was yes, at least according to my notes. And then, um, my notes say, and I'm just looking at my notes, I'm not comparing again to Sabrina's notes, but that we talked about surveying teachers and administrators, and I think maybe that was about what their practices are that lead them to be the best, right? Or to have, to be positive outliers. And my note said that Oswald cautioned us. That's all I have. Um, and then I have the survey question, what prevents you from getting better outcomes? That's after the caution. So I don't know if that was a thought after. I don't know. Um, and then, but for me, and I'm gonna get, and I think I've said this before, even if we come to some kind of conclusion, I think we need to land the plane soon about how we're gonna identify best teachers, right?
Mhm.
Um, my argument is I believe that there are um, agreements, like the collective bargaining agreement. I believe that there may be policies, there are definitely practices that lead to less high performing teachers being being placed, oh, we lost Sue, in the most challenging schools.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm getting stuck. So hopefully Sue will come back on.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Um, I know that she was having some difficulty with her connection, but I I totally agree. I think that we need to hone out and down on that definition soon because we've been working on it for the past several months, and then we could base our recommendations um, off of that. I know that we were sent the VAM information. Um, Now, I did jot down on my notes like what role does teacher experience play in student outcomes? That was something because at the end of last meeting, we kind of all just put questions in the chat to discuss at
Right.
this meeting to kind of like hone down and guide our recommendations. Because I think that you had said that last meeting that we need to kind of hone down that definition and then have it guide our recommendations for the because eventually we
So
do
do you
have
have
to.
that list of what people put in the chat?
Yeah, so all of those questions and that I just
What
kind of
in the notes?
summarized it, it's there.
Okay. Okay, great. Let me go back to it.
Hi, Sue. Just to catch you up, we were just saying how we ended last meeting was that we were running out of time. So we all kind of wrote down questions and points in the chat to start this meeting off and for discussion, like points of discussion for this meeting and to help guide our recommendations because like Dr. Robinson was saying, eventually we do have to make our recommendations to a larger group. So we're going to need to like hone down on that definition and see where we're going to go from this point. I jotted down the questions. Dr. Robinson, please let me know if I missed any at the where it says like follow-up questions and points for discussion.
Okay, that sounds great. So why don't we just start with that, look at each of those and see what we want to, where they take us. So the first one that you have there, Sabrina, is what percentage of each school's total population is in level 1 ELA?
And I believe
So I guess that would be a data record, or is that not in the data that we received already?
it might have been.
Let me interject real quick. Did we get the data request that we made to, Lord, I forgot the man's name, Houchins, um, at the last meeting?
Now I know we reviewed data at the last meeting. We reviewed the FY24 data, but I only have a copy of the FY23, FY24. I don't think that I have the most updated one that we reviewed.
Right, but we asked if he could get that data by teacher
Yeah.
as opposed to, and let me find it, because as I recall, it was by school.
Yeah, I believe so
Um,
too. And I was trying to pull it up, but I didn't have a copy of it.
okay, and I'm with you. I don't see that I have FY23 to 24, so I don't see
Okay.
that I have FY24 to 25.
Yeah, that's what I have as well.
Okay.
But we did review
And
24 to 25 last meeting,
Dr.
correct?
Robinson, you wanted Mr. Houchins to get, Dr. Houchins to get, say that again? I thought we would just ask for VAM scores. I can't remember.
Mm-mm. We didn't ask for VAM scores. What I asked for about VAM was how is it calculated, because sooner or later, VAM will come into the conversation. Somebody's going to mention VAM as a measurement of a good teacher, and I just want to get ahead of that because I know it's complicated, and I personally think it's fraudulent, but that's beside the point. But no, we asked for, so one, I think the last meeting, as Sabrina said, I think he projected the data for the end of last school year, the progress made in the last school year. But we asked if that data could be presented like by teachers. So like, for example, I'm looking at the level 1 student progress FY23 to 24. So we have Binks Force. It has total level 1 students served, the percent remaining at level 1, level, how many went to level 2, level 3. So
Right, like how
my
many teachers?
question was, can that be sorted by teacher anonymously, right? So like, so let's pretend Binks Forest has, and I don't know if we narrowed it for example, to third grade. I don't think we did that, because now that I'm saying it out loud, we're talking about a whole lot of data. But let's pretend that we're talking about fourth grade. Let's say we're looking at fourth grade ELA and the progress from the children from third grade to fourth grade, and we're looking at Bing's Force. So we're looking at all the fourth grade teachers. Is 5 of them. How many formerly level 1 students did they have in their classroom? How many remain level 1? That can we see the similar data, but by teacher? Because by school doesn't help me, because I'm trying to get to what how is this group going to determine what a good teacher, great teacher, excellent, whatever word we're using,
All right,
teacher
what is the
is.
best practice? You trying to determine like best practices are
I'm
being
not. Now
used?
I know
What
that
what good teachers are using as best practice? What strategies they're
I'm not.
using? Oh,
No, I'm not me, right? So listen, okay, so I'm gonna go back to my original thing, and this does not, and I'm clear that this, what I'm saying is not necessarily the position of the committee. And so, and the committee needs to say that. Like, we need to figure out what question we're trying to answer. And so I think that the question, and I'd have to go find other notes to see, and Sue Davis, maybe you have this clear. The question that I'm hoping that we're answering is, what are the procedures, policies, practices, agreements that prevent the best teachers from being with the students that need them most, or in the schools that need them most, right? And so in order to do that, we first have to define what the best teacher is, right? And that's what we've been dancing around for months and months and months.
Yeah.
So so in my little magical way of thinking, if we could look and see all the schools. Okay, so I'm gonna make a prediction that and maybe I don't know if we threw years of experience into the data request by teacher, because I think that that's a valid consideration. For
I
some
did.
reason, I think we might have asked whether or not they're national board certified, right? But okay, and so we could look at that, and then we could say, okay, so this category of schools has a higher percentage of teachers that move students from level one to two or three in 1 year than this category, right? And so the question is, I'm not looking at their best practices. I know that I'm losing everybody's name. One of the other committee members wants to talk about pedagogy and all, right? I'm talking about system problems. Now we can, I think we get into pedagogy and that leads to possibly professional development. I think that was the conversation that we had when we were having, maybe when we were talking about surveying the teachers, right? I'm not certain of that. But for me, I want to look at outcome data, and then and I want, maybe my hypothesis is incorrect, right? Maybe, the best teachers are in the highest need schools and with the highest need students. I don't believe that, but the data could tell me I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, then I have to drop my whole quest to look at these policies, practices, and procedures that in my mind prevent the best teachers from being with the neediest students. And then what we're left with is pedagogy and possibly resources. And I think that was the question when we considered, or at least I don't know if this was said out loud, but I wrote down, consider surveying, um, to ask what prevents you from getting better outcomes, right?
That was said out loud.
Mhm.
I think that that's where we
Okay.
were going with the qualitative data to like, but I agree with you. I think that that's part two, right? First, we have to see who are the best qualified teachers and where are they? Like, what
Right,
schools are they at? And what is
right,
the percentage of level one students per school, right? In that,
right, right.
I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I think, Deborah, I think you summed it up very well. It is interesting that we're all making the assumption that the let's just say we're not going to worry about what term we use. The best teachers
Uh,
um,
can I interrupt
are
for one
are at
second?
the schools where they're needed the most. Um, but it brings up an interesting question because, and I really like this follow up question because what if the fact that uh, the what's making the teacher the best is the environment at a school. So, in other words, if we take a best teacher at a high performing school, right, and put them in a different school environment, they may not be the best teacher anymore. So, I think that's a really, really interesting point because we're kind of, really this whole time we've been assuming that if we get the best teachers to the students who need them the most, that's going to have good outcomes. But there is that whole second piece. And I still believe that's true, by the way. But there is that whole second piece of how much of what makes a teacher a really good teacher is the support, resources, and everything else that they get in the environment they're in. So I love that follow up question that you have about uh, what's preventing you from having better outcomes? I think that would be really, really interesting to see.
So I don't mean to interrupt. So my piece in all of this is because I want you to have all of the data that you need, right? To assist you with answering these questions. So I think that that is the piece that at the end of this conversation today, right? That you can let me know what I need to ask for, so that you have everything that you need to have this pertinent and relevant discussion that's very important for our students in this district. So at the end of this conversation, I got my pen, I got my paper, so that I can ask for exactly what you need when I go to Dr. Houchins, Adam Miller and his department to say, hey, this is exactly what the subcommittee is looking for. This is the data that they're looking for. And if they cannot provide that data, to let you know what they can provide, what is possible for them to provide, and so we can move forward. Is that
Yeah,
is
no, I
that is
think
that
that's a really good
reasonable?
point because
Mm-hmm.
yes, and I think in the past we have not been as clear as we needed to be on exactly what we're looking for. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
And like I said, there's some points from the last meeting that were jotted down, like how Dr. Robinson mentioned teacher years of experience, years in service. Um, we also wrote, I also wrote something about like incentives that exist for teachers. I know that we were taking a look at that at one point. Um, but I think what Dr. Robinson had mentioned earlier, like let's say, for instance, we're taking a look at grade, right? I think that we need to own down a grade because the data pool would be way too large to look at per teacher if we're looking at all of the grades in elementary school, right? Um, so maybe if we could agree on as a committee, like what grade we're going to start at, I would say maybe third or fifth.
yeah, no, that's I think a really good idea. Um, and we might, we might choose one grade, like an elementary school grade or whatever, to begin, but then um, I do think that we might find different answers if we're looking at, say, a high school versus an elementary school. Um, I think the issues that might prevent the best teachers from being with the students that need it the most at high school might be different than they are in elementary. I don't know, but just a thought. Um, so, for those of you that are more familiar with all the testing and all that, would it make sense to look at like fourth grade when, because third grade's the first year they take it, so the switch, the change from third to fourth grade, would it make sense to do a different grade? What are your thoughts?
Look, I think that, well, I think that's definitely a good starting point. Let me tell you what I've jotted down in terms of the what we're requesting, right? And y'all can fix it, add to it, subtract, whatever. So the first is to have the data for the fiscal year 2025 school year, right? Then I have in my notes that we want to add it for each, and we want teacher level data, right? Not just school, right?
And do we want them for all grades?
No, let me get to that. So, and then we would have for school and teacher the total number of students and the percent that were tested level one the previous year. We want the teacher's years of experience, whether or not they have a national board certification, whether or not they have a reading endorsement. And for the student data, we want to be able to disaggregate by free and reduced lunch status, race, gender, and ELL status, right? So that's what I have in terms of the overarching picture. Now, in terms of the question you just asked, I mean, I think it's reasonable to start with fourth grade ELA, right? And in that way, we can see, the third to fourth grade progression, right? And it also is a warm up for us, so to speak. So, because we have to figure out sometimes, and looking at data, like, so when the coalition did this report card on the school district, we looked at so much data, it became like dizzying, right? And so then I had to back up and say, okay, what's the essential question I want to answer, and what is the data element that answers that, right? And so instead of asking for all this data, if we just do fourth grade ELA, or if you want to add math, fine. But I think, to me, third grade reading is like the single most important metric in my estimation. So if we look at fourth grade and the progress from third to fourth grade, then we can practice looking at data there and look at the practices related to that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that makes a lot of sense because we can always look at the bigger data picture after we've made some determinations to see if it still holds true of what we have found for fourth grade. But I agree. It's just when you start with something so overwhelming, I think it's just too much. We won't get anywhere. Part of why I think we've been a little floundering. Obviously, we've been off for summer, so that affects it. But I agree with that.
And then I don't know how difficult it would be to pull this, but in terms of the teacher, how did they get to that school, right? Um, I'm sure the first answer we're going to hear is that they can't pull that data, right? I'm sure that's the first answer. But what I want to know is how did they get there? Like, did they apply, or
Mhm.
were they you at it, if that's the right term, or were they like right now I'm aware of schools who got additional units, and I won't name it, but one got a teacher who's supposed to be teaching, I'm gonna call it a critical area, who is not certified in that area, and um, at all, not even certified in an academic area. Okay, and they're being placed there, right? And so this is what I'm talking about. The processes that get um, I'm gonna call them leftover teachers, and I know that's terribly disrespectful, um, but leftover teachers. So these are the teachers who either were getting maybe disciplined out, um, or they got let go in whatever form or fashion, or they're having a not a good experience where they are, and so they put themselves in the pool to move, right? Um, but that's a critically important. I mean, because I heard it for years and years and years and years, right? And so I want to prove or disprove that, and see if we can see the impact of that practice in the data. That's where I'm going. You guys can redirect that, but that's where I'm going.
I completely echo that. I mean,
I would agree with that.
yeah, with our work in the community, I have seen similar instances in areas of critical need with teachers who may not be academically qualified, like, to be an academic, qualified to be an academic teacher, let alone looking at areas of like ESE. Um, I think that we need to know how they're being placed in the schools, and
Hmm.
that what that process looks like, right? And it's going to be different per teacher, but there has to be some policies that in place that guide these decisions.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like we could get access to that.
And so, Deborah, is this kind of a secondary question after we do our initial um, kind of determination about the teachers? because I think, I mean, we can certainly ask just for what's the generic process, but I think also, once we kind of drill down to the teacher level data and really see what we see, then I think that's when follow-up questions happen, then once we see that. But I kind of think of what you just said, which I think is really, really important, but as kind of a question for down the road a little bit. Is that, do, do I, what do you
Well,
think,
I
Deborah?
think in terms of the processing is down the road, but what I'm saying is since we're asking for data, let's ask for that, right?
And,
It,
and would that be at the teacher level or just the overall
yes.
process?
No, teacher level, teacher by teacher, teacher by teacher. I'm telling you. So, and this is what I fully expect to see, right? I fully expect to see a disproportionate number of teachers who got placed at these high need schools, right? Who have, and generally speaking, disproportionately going to have um, lower progress for their students, right? That's what I expect to see. But Sue Davis, the point that you made earlier, I think is on the money. That you can be an outstanding teacher in school A and flop in school B, and I've seen it both ways, right? I've seen teachers who were really good in high needs schools who were like fish out of water in these wealthier schools, right? And it's skill sets. It is an art, right? And it's an art not only in the teaching but also in dealing with the environment and respecting the environment that you're in, right? Um, but yeah, and so but again, I'm trying to get to the procedures, policies, agreements, and practices that encourage these disparities to
Mhm.
continue. That's what I'm getting at, right?
Exactly. And so to be clear on the data that we're requesting, um, so we want the teacher level data at grade 4 ELA for the um, number of students who, I guess, the total number of students who scored a level 1, and also the students who went from a level 1 to a level 3. Is that what we're asking?
No, I think it's the same as the data that was presented on the school level. So we'll see
Okay.
the total number of students they had, the total in their classroom, the total that previously scored at level 1, right? The number and percent that remained level 1, went to level 2, went to level 3 plus,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Then we have teachers' years of experience, national board certification, yes or no, reading endorsement, yes or no. How did the teacher get to that school? And these terms might need to be cleaned up, but they applied, they were part of the UAT process, or they were placed there. And then for students, um, I want to see the free and reduced lunch numbers, race, gender, ELA. Now, as I'm saying this, I can't really visualize how they would present that to us, but they present data all the time, so they're gonna know better than me. And all that's for the fiscal year 2025 data for fourth grade ELA.
Um, Good morning. Is it possible that you guys could put those questions in the chat so that way I know you. Can you please put the questions in the chat so I can have a clear question to give to my
I'll write it
manager?
up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. And while Deborah's typing that up, um, and actually, Deborah, it might be easier to do an email, um, just because then you can edit. Like if we can edit and say, "Oh, we missed one thing," or whatever.
Right, I'm typing it in a Google Doc. I'll show it to you.
There we go. Okay. Um, do we want to ask for a survey to be done, or do we want to look at data first and then do a survey?
Well, which survey are you talking about?
I think I'm looking at the questions from last time about
I think that survey was mostly geared to like what would make you like more effective, or like that follow-up question that you were saying about school environment. But I think that's more of like a part two. First, we have this hypothesis that we need to either prove or not prove, right? And then maybe we could ask for the qualitative surveys. Now, he did caution about that last meeting, so it may or may not be something that they can.
right. Yeah. All right. So let's hold off on that just to, I think sometimes we get so much data that then it becomes overwhelming and we don't do anything with it. So, um, we'll, all right.
Give me 2 minutes. I'll have this ready for you to look at.
All right, Deborah, you're good. You're fast.
Thank you.
My mother made me go to secretarial school when I was in high school.
It is funny when you think about opportunities available to women back in the day.
Oh no, she sent me to secretarial school so that I'd be able to take good notes in college. It was listen, I wasn't gonna be a secretary. I'm just saying.
Wow, that
Wow,
is
that is so
smart.
yeah.
That is really smart.
I was an ESE teacher.
Ah,
I
she
love
knew
that.
all about accommodations.
Is a skill. It definitely is. And now with AI, I mean, it's sad. That skill is gonna be gone.
Yeah. Well, my hope is that with more and more people taking what they write and putting it into AI, even emails and everything, and put it into AI and tell them to make it sound, professional, that maybe they're learning. I mean,
That's a
I
great
think
way.
it's better than just writing it non-professionally and sending it. So this, at least they'll read the professional version and,
100%. I love that like
yeah.
frame of
I,
it. That's
I have this one family that every time I read her emails to the school, I'm like, wow, these are awesome. And I was surprised because English is not her first language. And, it was just not the person I expected that from. And she said, yeah, I just read it up. And then I put it in AI and tell them to make it professional, empathetic, and cooperative. I'm like, wow, they're awesome.
amazing.
Okay,
Right, good
see
for
if
you,
this is
Deborah.
capturing what we're saying.
What is UAT, Deborah, for the teacher,
Okay, I
how the
can't
teacher
remember what it
arrives at the
stands
school?
for. Miss Simmons, you wanna tell us so that I don't misrepresent it?
So it's like the unit, like the teaching unit per, like,
That's it. Unit adjustment
yeah.
transfer. But how does it work?
Oh gosh, how does it work? Now that might be above my pay grade. Let me figure that out for you. Give me 1 second.
Well, so let me
I
ask
don't
you a
want to say how it
question.
works and then I'm wrong.
Is this, does this mean like, say after the 11-day count, when a school loses a teacher or two and then they get sent someplace else? Is that when this is done? Or is it something else?
That's not what I'm talking about. And so I might be using the wrong term. So what I'm talking about is in the spring, when they do their budget projections, there's this period of time where teachers can transfer to another school,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what I was calling you at.
And that's by choice?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's voluntary
Am I wrong?
transfer.
Why don't we
Can you
just
say it
call it
again?
voluntary
Voluntary
transfer?
transfer. How do teachers arrive at schools? That's voluntary transfer. So
Okay.
yeah,
And
so
so
they
we have an
voluntary transfer,
involuntary
not
transfer.
involuntary. It's voluntary.
No, we have a thing called involuntary transfer too, right?
Right. So we do have involuntary transfer, but
Mm-hmm.
voluntary transfer is when the people are able to say, "Hey, I want to move." Like the applications are put out, they're able to move.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very often that people are involuntary transferred, but a lot of times that happens after the voluntary transfer period. So what happens is you've missed the voluntary transfer period, um, and then something happens, whatever the case may be, something happens, and then you are quote unquote involuntary transferred. That happened to me at a school that I was quote unquote involuntary transferred from one school to the next because post the voluntary transfer, they decided that they wanted to change some things at the school. So I was involuntary transferred.
And how is that different from the fourth category there, the placed?
Um, so sometimes things happen at a school. Like for example, you might have. I had a friend had an incident at a school. She was at transportation for a minute, and then coming out of transportation, come to find out that it was not founded. But the person that she had the incident with was still at the school, so she was placed at a different school. Not that it was a bad thing that she was placed at a different school. She wanted to go back to her old school, but because she was at transportation for so long, they didn't have a position for her at her old school. So she had to be placed at a different school. It happens to administration sometimes. Like assistant principals are placed at different schools. I was at Woodlands at one time, and then I was switched, so I was placed at Lantana Middle School because I had said out loud that I wanted Title I experience. I mean, I didn't want to be moved, but I said it out loud and somebody heard me say it. So I all of a sudden I was called in the office. I was like, what? So it wasn't a bad thing, but it happened. You understand what I mean? Like it wasn't a bad thing, but I was called into the office one day and it was like, hey, we're going to move you. We're going to switch you with, another assistant principal. We're going to place you over at Lantana. I was like, what, why? Because we heard you say out loud that you wanted Title I experience. I was like, yeah, but I was just talking. You know what I mean? So I was placed at Lantana. Not it wasn't a bad thing and I loved it, but so sometimes placement can be okay. So it's not always a bad thing. So sometimes it just is just the luck of the straw. And then also at the end of the 11-day count, so you might have a school that loses positions, right? Loses teaching positions. And so they estimated how many students they were going to have. They might lose, a middle school might lose a language arts teacher because they overestimated how many sixth graders they had coming in, right? And so then, but you have another school that needs two language arts teachers. So they might have to be placed at that
Got it.
other school. So that might be a placement.
Okay. Um, Deborah, can you scroll up just a little bit so I can see what's at the top? And also, there's a raised hand, and I'm sorry, I don't see your name. And since I wasn't here
It's
for
Marcus Brown. Sorry about that. Yeah.
oh, hey, Marcus,
Thanks
hi.
for joining us. Hey, quick question. So, but before I ask my question, thank you so much for explaining the circumstances surrounding involuntary transfers. My question is, do we know of any general um, or common, I guess, determinants for approval of voluntary transfers?
So a bulletin just went
Ah,
out. I mean, well, this bulletin went out in March, and I'm going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of tell you the access process. Just kind of read some of the things, and then what I'll do is I'll send this to you guys, send the link to you guys, so you can read about the UAP process that went out in March of 2025. And this kind of goes out at the end, about March of every year. It'll go out again March 2026. So it kind of just tells you like there's a temporary hiring hold. Effective March 8th, a hiring hold for all instructional positions will be in effect in order to facilitate the UAT excess placements. There's seniority queries. Mr. Oswald just walked into the room. Um, there's there's criteria for instructional personnel. There's also protected subject areas for UAT. The budget department allows schools to retain up to 3 over allocation teachers in the protection subject areas. It's actually a 12-page document. The bulletin is PD 25253CHR. And so what I'm going to do is, can you take the link and put it in the chat? So Taisha's going to take the link and she's going to put it in the chat because you might want to read over what it is because it's a 12-page document.
Thank you. That may give us some insight into how um, educators are placed in the different schools, and help us find those determining factors, so we can move on down the road and get to where we want to go.
So this may help you to find out. So I'm not sure. So I can only tell you from my own experience, like how I was placed in different schools, and I can only tell like it's not, Mr. Oswald. How are teachers like placed in different schools besides when there is like 11-day count, or if someone is like temporarily placed at transportation, and then the investigation is done, and then they come back and their position is no longer available at that school, so then they have to be placed at another school. What are some other things that cause them to be placed?
Other reasons, so you got excess, yeah, I'm just playing in my head. Sometimes there may be a hardship, there's something in the contract, CTA contract, if a teacher's trying to get to another school, but that's more of kind of a transfer.
Right. No, they want to
Volunteers.
know like if a teacher doesn't want to go and they're placed.
So typically, HR will work with a teacher who's being accessed will get a list of all the vacancies and pick their top 3 choices within that. And typically, HR works with them so that something like that is honored.
Is that the UAT process? Do I have the wrong term?
Correct.
It
So for
is
example,
UAT.
now with enrollment dropped, some teachers at certain schools would get a list of where the vacancies are. And the teachers would be, UAT would be based on seniority within that school setting. Yes, they should be able to link, yes. And there's more detail too. Most of that's coming from the CTA, the Classroom Teacher Association contract.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
So is that the same process? Um, like this time of year after the count where they say, okay, like school ABC needs another unit in subject XYZ, and then they send somebody from a school who's losing units. Is there any teacher say in that, or is it here's your option?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's all kind of a negotiation. I've been on both ends, right? Typically, when I was a principal, that we try to make a marriage, right? A good match. So typically, that works out that way. Does it 100%? No, I've been in situations where I just received without, any kind of prenup or anything. So it just kind of received that individual, and we work to make it work.
Okay,
And there is some things in the contract, if you do have somebody placed, and let's say there's performance issues, and that's documented, that a teacher can be sent back to its original sending school. I've been on that side of that too, where I've done
you
that.
mean that after they're placed, like, like I get rid of a poorly performing teacher and they get placed at your school and they perform poorly there, you can send them back to me? That's what you're saying?
Yes, I've done that as a principal. Like,
Okay.
yeah, kind of like, Amazon, you don't like the package, you send it back. But, I'm sorry, I had 2 cups of coffee and they were really strong. So,
Yeah, but so, okay, but so here's the rubber meeting the road, and I'm gonna just say this and then I won't disrupt anymore. So we're in a position right now, right, where, well, I don't know what the match is. The school district is down on students and it's been short on teachers for a while. I saw something in the paper today about the statewide teacher shortage, even though they say it's less of a teacher shortage than before. But I don't know how many of those people actually are like teachers, like career educators, but there's a there's an issue in some of the high need schools. There's no way to measure this that I know of, where they just need to make sure that they had somebody in that seat. So I just, I think that you are probably a positive outlier, Mr. Oswald, in saying no, you taking this one back. You know, um, but I'm glad to know that I don't remember ever knowing that that was in the contract. So okay, I'll quit talking.
yeah, I would say some of those areas where they're just looking for somebody, and I don't think we have that many. I can check with HR, or we could have a presentation with HR to the greater group, because I think that'd be enlightening, but some of your hard-to-staff, higher-order classes, I know that's always tough. It's always hard to find a physics teacher, right? Not many people graduating with physics, degree in physics, that wants to go in education, or your high-end math courses. Those can be more challenging. I know we gotta get ready to switch over.
Oh, yeah, it's, so, Deborah, can you scroll down, just one more, on the thing, and, because that looks really good. Question, do we want ESE on the student data?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would say
Sorry.
yes.
All right, I think that looks great. I think that will give us, plenty of data to look at and try to analyze. So, I think, like you said, it's 2 minutes till when the next meeting starts. So thank you, everybody, and, we'll, see where we go from here. Is it a different meeting link for the
Yes,
main
it
one?
is.
Okay, thanks. All right, then goodbye, everybody. See you in a few minutes.
Thank you. See you
Bye-bye.
later.
Take care, everybody. Have a great one. See you in a minute.